So, why the hell are we still using teleportation? To answer that, and I will give one definitive answer as to what we should use in Locomotion in VR today at the end of the talk, but to give background information on why are we using teleportation today. So, all right, I'm here also. I'm here, and this is the team I'm with. And so, there we go, slides. Back in 2013, we knew VR is coming. We've been kind of knowing it for a while, but now Oculus dev kits are starting to come out. People are starting to actually get their hands on some VR development, prototype hardware, and oh my God, the future is amazing. And us as developers are having all these expectations and all these dreams about, oh my God, we have these kind of amazing worlds right now. Imagine the things we can do, the places we can go, the things we can see. And experience these open worlds and seamless Skyrim experiences and Just Cause and World of Warcraft, and let's just port these things into VR. That didn't go so well, as most of us probably know. So we needed to come up with something that took care of this. How can we actually move around in VR? How can we make sure that we can have these sort of expansive realities? And we came, as a collective, we kind of came up with two main things, main sort of pathways down this. First of which was just stick-to-stick movement and WASD. See what can we do with the gamepad and the controls that we already have. We already know how they are used. Let's just stick with that. So with this, you can move anywhere. You can have your Skyrims, you can have your World of Warcrafts. But it kind of, if you're doing it not precisely correctly, it feels very nauseating. And even to those players that go beyond that and don't feel nauseated, they instead just feel sort of like, oh, this is just floating around, this feels weird. And adding on to that, our previous games having characters running at 30 or 40 kilometers an hour, that didn't really mesh well when we came into a first-person perspective in VR. So another thing that we came up with was, well, teleportation. And it seemed to solve pretty much all of the problems that we had currently. We could move around very freely, we could go anywhere, and getting in, when room scale environments started coming as well, we had the motion controllers that could be a very clear point of reference for the teleporters. And we could, in your play space, you can move around, pick up stuff, do things, and if you wanted to go anywhere else, just teleport there, and awesome, you have another play experience. Of course, as has been earlier mentioned today several times, this didn't feel like a natural movement. So that was a huge barrier to overcome in games in order to actually make it work properly. That said, going now, beyond 2013, what has happened? And what did we do as a collective and us specifically at SVRVIVE? So flashing forward to mid-2016, we came up with the concept for SVRVIVE the Use Helix. And this was based on real-life escape room experiences. So we had a core concept of you need to move around, you need to be able to actually pick up stuff in the room in your vicinity, but we also wanted this kind of expansive worlds. And the gameplay itself was more slow-paced, more leaning towards experiences such as Myst and Riven, and now later Abduction. So we could have time, we could let the player have their own time to just move at their own pace. And since this was a sci-fi setting, the kind of unnaturalness of the teleporter still fit very well. And when we started developing, we later realized that we had teleportation so much in our level design, even stick movement would actually break some of the level design. In this GIF, you can see, or GIF, I don't care. You can see him teleporting over a gap. In stick movement, you wouldn't have that. He would just fall into the water, or just float over the water, which would be weird. So basically, teleportation led to other sort of design decisions that helped the game in some ways, took away some of the options in other ways. So that's going into now our upcoming game, Kartong. So this is a concept started early this year. Things have started moving about a bit, where most of the community is tired of the old, boring blink teleportation. But we still felt that it was sort of the go-to way that we wanted to approach things, with the teleportation instead, still. But this time we wanted some more complexity in this, because we had a more varied gameplay where you have a stealth action shooter sort of experience, where you have to be able to have varied speeds on running and stealth mode and being able to navigate around tight corners. You can't just have the old blink teleportation, just be able to blink multiple times and be able to just infinitely run away from all the dangers of the game world. So what we came up with was a three-step concept in the teleportation. And also these are exclusive first images. And footage still work in progress, so don't hold this too dearly. But as you can see, we have different sort of game lengths. We can't, there is a max cap on how far you can go in order for it to be able to match the enemy speeds in the game. So you can't run away infinitely, keeping that sort of tension between player and monsters in the game. But we also wanted precision in this. We wanted, since this is more of a scary game or intense gameplay, we want to be able to make sure that players keep their precision and they know exactly where they're going to end up when they are teleported. In the Helix, we had this just small dot that you knew where in the world space you were going to be, but not which orientation, how you're going to be traveling there. Here you have traps you need to avoid. So with the red color, we show that, okay, you're running now, you're doing this fast, just load it up quickly, teleport away, run away, run away. With the blue line, you signal you need to wait a bit more, sacrifice some time in order to be able to navigate around obstacles, navigate around traps, and be able to sneak around monster attention. And last but not least, taking inspiration from games like Recall and others, having the arrow at the end to just visualize where the player ends up. So more complicated, evolved state of a teleporter, but still in essence just a teleportation. So non-teleporters also seem to work these days now, though. For instance, we have games like Climby and Cloudborne that are using sort of climbing motions in order to grab around. This is utilizing their sort of, instead of having the unnaturalness of stick movement and teleportation, you just let the player always be in control of how fast they're moving, where they're going, and letting that affect all of the game design and all of the world building in the game. We have games like Lizard Trips, who has this sort of hand walking, I don't know really how to put it in words, interface or locomotion, where you just walk like this around the world, and it's beautiful and psychedelic experience, but hasn't really been done before in another game, as far as I'm aware. And even still, we have games like Onward that just spit in the face of all of us saying stick movement doesn't work and said, no, it's gonna work. God damn it. And it worked. They wanted a CSGO/Call of Duty experience, and they goddamn made it. And some people still do get sick. They can't get around that. but they have solved it in that case that there are a fraction of the percentage of people now getting sick from their stick movement than people were before. So what I'm trying to get at is, oh yeah, and we're not even using teleporters in a net game because, well, we are working on more things after the 2 games we've done, and it's a third-person view because we've realized that in that game, teleportation just doesn't fit the game world. You can't really teleport around in order to move around this wall space. Why, I can't say yet, because my boss would kill me, but there are just, going back to the God view talk earlier today, there are third-person views that still work and can be very effective in VR worlds as well. So this isn't really a talk about teleportation. I lied. This is more a talk about the endless discussion we've had for several years and still continue having these many years on about what do we actually do with Locomotion in games. And it isn't just stick movement and teleportation. Because, to be frank, we don't know what's coming next. And these sort of solutions that we have today are just means to an end in the current state of VR and AR and MR and whatever it's called next. Microsoft keeps dubbing it to different things. We don't know what unforeseen design choices will make from other game developers. That next big thing, like the climbing systems, the stick movements being able to work properly, something else that none of us have thought of. What is going to happen next? Even hardware solutions. We had heard yet again earlier today, there are simulators and suits and systems that are using haptics that would nullify or just circumvent all the troubles we're having with Locomotion today. What are they going to use? Are we just going to think ourselves forward? I don't know. You don't know. None of us know. But we're the ones who need to figure it out when that comes. And as always, it's up to us developers to just find out, make it the games that we want to make, and make sure that the Locomotion fits that game. So the Locomotion that I'm going to advocate you to use for your game is the game that your game designs for you. Just make sure that it's your game making your decisions surrounding what kind of experience you want the player to have. For now, it's most of the time teleportation, but that's just really because we are at that point in time right now, with our motion controls, with whatever. It is a limitation that we're getting by, sort of. And what's next? Well, it's up to us to find out. So yeah, a bit of a shorter talk, this one. But thank you.